This is a review of Morbius by Vita Ayala, the series that got canceled after issue 5. Now, Vita Ayala is one of those writers who was very controversial. She writes truly one of the comics of all time. And when she says it's Vita Ayala time, and Vita Ayala's all this, I can't do it. I can't do the meme. I thought I could, but I can't. So let's get into the actual review. Um, so Vita Ayala is a very controversial writer, and not in a good Warren Ellis or Garth Ennis way, where oh my god, this is like the comic's supposed to be for kids, and you're doing this. No, Vita Ayala causes a lot of trouble online, on Twitter. She's one of the reasons. I'd say one of the reasons. Not she's not the main reason, but one of the reasons why comics are kind of failing. And but Morbius, I think, is her best work that I have read at least, and I have not read a whole lot of Vita Ayala books I can think of at least. But these books, her Morbius run doesn't have her Vita Ayala isms, which is kind of like writing her characters that's obviously a write-in or having a bunch of like cringy dialogue. No, it's a straightforward story. If you crossed out who was writing this book, so I never knew who was writing it, I would not tell you. I could not tell you it was Vita Ayala. Honestly, I would say, oh, maybe it's Jody Hauser, or maybe it's Matthew Rosenberg. Maybe it's one of these guys. No, I would not be able to tell you. Oh, it's Vita Ayala. And this isn't a perfect comic. I have not read a whole lot of Morbius comics. So I don't know if this is truly the way that Morbius is written. From what I've heard, it's not. So if you're looking for a Morbius book, you're gonna be a bit disappointed. But if you're new to the character, this isn't the worst place to go. Honestly, this is because the series did not sell so well because it got canceled. You could probably find this at your dollar bin, at your local comic shop for $5 for this entire run. Now. I'm going to go over the good, the bad, and then the ugly. The ugly, I won't really have anything, but the good, let's start out with the good. The artwork, especially for this cover, I really like. It makes it look like a poster for an old monster movie, which is the aesthetic that they were going for. That's really good. Now, the internal artwork is pretty good, too. I have no complaints to the internal artwork. Let's see who it's done by. I will, for once, go over who does the artwork. It's at the end. It's right here. Marcelo Ferreira does the pencils. Roberto Poggi is the inker. And I can't read. There's a lot of foreign names that I cannot read. Omar from Near My Condition can do that justice, but I can't. So that's the creative team behind Morbius. I think it's the same. Let's see. Scott Hanna comes on. So I'll just do it. I'll just do all of them. This is for issue 2, right? Yeah, I did in order. Good. So issue 2. Issue 3 is... It's all written by Vita Ayala, though. And issue 4... And finally, issue 5... Okay. Now on to the other good. So the artwork is good. Okay, I should probably just do the artwork for all the issues. It's pretty consistent in my opinion. That's for issue 4. I'll go backwards, or not play backwards because I'm going in a weird order. But this is issue 5's internal artwork. The artwork again, it was like, and I found it funny how I thought I just saw it. Yep. I like it how they have an advertisement for Battle of the Atom, Children of the Atom. I've heard that series was awful. See, that's a prime example of an awful Vita Ayala book. So and again, she's very controversial. She's not the kind of writer that you go to did that. It's a full page spread ad for X-Men Fantastic Four. I was trying to show the artwork, but I ended up doing that by mistake. But yeah, and it's not like she causes a lot of trouble online. She almost hates the fans. It's one of those things where it's like, and as much as controversial as she is, as much of as annoying as she can be online, on Twitter, and cause a bunch of trouble and be like a Twitter crybaby, I guess you'd say. I do feel bad that her series to end up getting canceled because it's one of the very few books that she's written that I would actually do recommend. It's kind of funny I'm recommending a book by Vita Ayala, but again, like I said before, this is probably again, what I've heard from, it's still, you still get vampire action. The one downside, so I'll still get the good. The good is that the writing is pretty solid. You know, again, I would not be able to tell you this is written by Vita Ayala. If you had crossed out the name, I had no idea. I would not be able to tell you it's Vita Ayala because there's no Vita Ayala isms in here. The closest we get is there's a line from Michael Morbius that says, now let's science. And that's like, no, no one talks like that. But for the most part, it was a pretty solid book. You know, it flows very well. The pacing is pretty good. It's a pretty fast read. You could probably read all this in one day, honestly, if you so desire to. And I'd say it takes about a half hour. I'd say 20 minutes per book for me to read it. And some was like 10 minutes, so some were pretty fast. So let's say 15, 30, 60 minutes. So like an hour and a half to read the entire book for me. And that's going at my pace. So it's a pretty fast read. It's a pretty good read. I would give it like probably like a 5 out of 10 still, but closer to 6 out of 10, than a 4 out of 10, well, 5 out of 10. So it's like 5.5 out of 10. Now on to the bad. Now the Michael Morbius in this comic is written kind of differently than what you would expect. He's trying the whole plot synopsis behind this comic is he's trying to get a cure for his condition, for his vampirism, and you do kind of get like a kind of more, not a kind of sort of more, kind of a more wimpy Michael Morbius. He's kind of like he's really wanting to get that cure, and he's kind of desperate, and he has that kind of desperation in his speech, and his kind of desperation in the artwork can tell. But that's about the only downside. And it's not a great comic. It's not like, oh my god, this should win an Eisner. No, it's just like a solid, you know, palate cleanser. If you're reading like a Silver Age comic, and that's taking you like an hour and a half to read each issue, then this is a good comic to you know, palate cleanser, to, you know, something that's gonna take you not too long to read, but it's still good. It's still a solid comic. Again, it's a 5 out of 10 comic. It's an average comic, but for Vita Ayala, that's a good comic. There's another one she did. It was a Wonder Woman story. I think it was the weakest in that, I remember. Thinking Critical and all of them liked that storyline, which for them that's saying a lot, because they are very, very critical about, ironically, no pun intended, they're very critical about surrounding Vita Ayala, because she is kind of like a bully on Twitter. She kind of like someone will say like, oh, why didn't this sell, and she'll like kind of be really mean towards them, and you know, it's like, they didn't even deserve that. It's not like someone's being mean to her, so she's mean right back. No, she's just like, she's very, like she's very like mean towards these types of people that don't deserve it because, oh, she thinks this about these people. No, it's just like, wow. But again, it's just all a comic, and I'm not the kind of guy to be like, oh, I'm not going to get this comic because this person wrote it. No, I'm going to be like, hey, this got a good review from these people, and it looks like a comic I might be interested in. I'm purchasing it. You know, there's so many creators that I buy comics from that I am sure have said nasty stuff online. Mark Waid is a prime example. So I'm not the kind of guy to do that. And honestly, this is the first time I want to say that I've really gone in depth into someone's like personal life, into how they interact with customers on Twitter and social media. I kept saying online. It sounds so weird, but so I should have said social media. But you know, it's not. You know, she's not not the greatest person, but I'm not the kind of guy that's like, oh, I'm gonna not get any Vita Ayala book. No, I'm not gonna get it because she's not a good writer, from what I've been told, and they'll go through an entire issue. Like, entire issue, they'll go, like, in-depth review. More in-depth than I ever could. And they'll, like, kind of like Comic Pop does it, if you watch those guys. And, yeah, I watch those reviews, and I'm like, damn, that's not a comic I've ever be interested in. So, it's the writing, not the person itself. I'm not the kind of guy to be like, oh, well, yeah, this guy said, this controversial thing on Twitter, so I'm not gonna buy any of his books. No, I'm not the kind of guy. I understand those who are, though. Do not get me wrong. I completely understand. If you don't like this person, the way they said on Twitter, they said this really nasty thing online, on social media, and you don't want to, you don't want to give them any of your money, I get that, you know, and pirating this guy's comics, if you still want to read it, but you pirate the comic. I'm not the kind of guy who pirates comics, but, you know, it's to each their own for that. That's one thing I do not condone. I do not either condone or speak against or for comic piracy. And kind of, but piracy in general. But again, this is a solid comic. Its writing is pretty good. Its writing pretty solid, and I do recommend it. But probably get it at your local comic shop at the bargain bin, because it should be at the bargain bin, or seek it elsewhere, like your local library or whatever. And it's one I would like to see a follow up of on, even if it is still written by Vita Ayala. I wouldn't mind that. So that's your review of Morbius. Morbid time. Ha ha ha. That's a funny meme. But I always want to review this comic because it is a comic that I do I slightly recommend. Again, a 5 out of 10 kind of book. Don't go out of your way to try and find this comic. You shouldn't need to go out of your way. It should be at any local comic shop. The trade is I believe it's $15.99 list price, and some of these trades kind of go out of stock pretty quickly. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna see how much it is on Amazon, because Amazon, it's $8.99 I believe for the trade. And that's for digitally, and that is a bit too pricey. For the same price of that, you could get like so many other better comics, modern comics, for $8.99. That's Marvel Comics' list price. So I wouldn't say to do that. I would say to get anything else, honestly. As much as I did kind of like this comic, I would not say to spend. And yeah, you could say, oh, you told me to buy it for $5 because it's $5 on here. Well, yes, but I mean, if it's $5, and I know $8 is like $3 more expensive, but it's hard to say. So Morbius, Vita Ayala. Should show right up. Oh, it's not. Oh, it's Marvel Select. What? No. They did not do Marvel Select for this comic. They did not. $13.99 and Prime delivery. Yeah, $8.99 for the list for the digital price. I mean, if you're really interested in reading the comic, then yeah, I'd say purchase it. But it's a lot to ask for. And yet again, I'm going to reiterate that I have not read any Morbius comics. I'm just seeing how long we're going for. I can't see from here. Let's go close. But again, I have not read a whole lot of Morbius comics. I don't think this is the best Morbius book. I don't think this is a good modern interpretation of Morbius. That is the ugly. I would say there's an ugly that it might not be the best Morbius comic. I say that for the bad too. But for something that, so this is another thing about me. I'm not the kind of guy who was like, oh, this comic is different. It's a different interpretation of Spider-Man than this comic did, so that's a downside. No, I like to think of things as, like, a different kind of Spider-Man. Like, even if it is a 616 version of Spider-Man, and this creator writes him differently, I always think of him as still a different version of Spider-Man. Like, kind of like Ultimate Universe Spider-Man, even if it is not the Ultimate Universe Spider-Man. So I'm not the kind of guy, I mean, there are exceptions, but I'm not the kind of guy who is going to say, oh, this is different, so it's bad. No. The different interpretation of the character, so it's bad. But it's still in the same universe, the 616 universe, as, any other Spider-Man book. No. I judge it based off of a stand alone. It's based off of a standalone kind of comic. Now, what was I going to look up again? I already forget. But that is my review of Morbius by Vita Ayala. A solid comic from a not-so-solid writer. And it's funny because it's not like she writes really good comics, but she's a total just really annoying on Twitter. No, it's, she's not the best writer, and she's not the best person in general. Rick Remender, I've heard, is kind of controversial. Kind of a controversial writer, but his stories are solid. Mark Waid, like I said before, he's really bad on Twitter, and he writes some of the best comics out there. One of my favorite Superman books he's written, Superman Birthright. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give them props. As much as I hate to give them props, they write pretty good comics. Now, this is nowhere near as good as anything Mark Waid has written. No. It's just something that, if you want, like, a solid storyline, solid story that's gonna flow really, if you want a good Vita Ayala book, get this. But if you want, like, a good Morbius comic, probably go for the his first appearance. I remember that was pretty good. I don't know what I was gonna look up. I was gonna look up something. I already forget. It wasn't Morbius again. Oh, it was Marvel Select. I gotta do it on my iPad though. Alright, so let's see. Because Marvel Select is when they would go like, okay, what's the best storyline for this character? Let's do a hardcover of this book. And if they picked Morbius, that is very annoying. Okay, so let's do Marvel Select. I have to do a little bit this way so I can see. Marvel Select. I can't do it on my phone because it'll end the video. And I won't do it in the Alright, here we go. Marvel Select. Come on. It's possible they haven't done. It's possible they haven't done anything for it yet, but it did have a 2022 release, so it should be the most recent one. Okay, Black Panther, Spider-Man. They picked Kraven's Last Hunt. That's what I would choose. Deadpool. They picked the Joe Kelly run, which yeah, okay. Alright, I'm gonna go with what they picked for each and every one. We'll be here all day. I'm not seeing it. Good. Alright, that was a false alarm. Yeah, they picked that. Like, even like me not having read a whole lot of Morbius, I wouldn't pick that. I would pick probably the first appearances, or there's a more recent run that didn't get the best reviews, but it'd be nice to reprint that book, saying it's out of print. But that, as I say, is my final video of the year. I want to end it out with the comic I've read this comic like 50 times. I know. That's probably not the best thing. I probably should try and get some more. I probably will try and get that Morbius omnibus, but even then, I'm like, I want to get something. I want to get my Morbius and my Blade. I want to get more modern books. You know, something that's good, but it's also modern. You know, something like from 2011 or from this era of Marvel Comics that, you know, everyone else would say, yeah, this is good. Like everyone else. I mean, I could go to the older stuff like Morbius. There is some written by Steve Gerber. I like his writing. But again, I want something more modern. I want something that's going to be violent, if anything, you know. Because when you hear Morbius, the living vampire, like, okay, it's going to be violence. They couldn't quite do that in the older days. But actually, on the flip side, some were magazines that were mature audiences. So maybe I will check out the omnibus. Maybe. But again, I still have... It will not be... If I get the Morbius omnibus, it will not be in the coming... It will not be like... It'll be a long time from now. It won't be... I kept on to say it won't be recent, but doesn't make any sense. Because there's so many books I need to get. Like, I just, recommended books. I still gotta get all those. I still gotta get books from these. Gotta get the East and West I want to get. I still want to get my finish off my Jeff Lemire Image Comics collection from Jeff Lemire. There's weekly books. There's this, there's that. There's so many comics I need and want that, I can't waste it on something that I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on. You know, I'm still kind of tied down to just getting Image Comics too for trades, and I just got a whole bunch of trades for Image Comics too that I'm still happy to get. Don't get me wrong. I am not one of those. I'm not trying to say that what I got. No, I still am happy with what I got so far. But I'm just saying, like, in the future, when I do end up, when I'm gonna go back to purchasing bigger books, I'm not gonna start with Morbius, the omnibus, even the older year stuff. But that, as they say, that's the final video of the year. I wanted to end it with a bang, kind of, sorta, but that's it.